Hello and welcome to Teaching Math. Today we're going to explore system of equations word problems, and I'm going to make it easy for you. We're going to write system of equations, solve it step by step, and then you're going to see three types of examples you might encounter in your tests and your homework. Let's get started. So here are the steps that you take when you are writing a word problem. We're going to define the variable, write two equations, and choose substitution or elimination method, and then solve the systems, obviously answer the question. Our first example is all about numbers. Two numbers added to 24. That means two numbers, when we add them together, will equal 24. And then one number is 8 more than the other, which means one number is greater than the other. Defining our variables will be our first step. So we have two numbers. So we can say one is x, and then the other number could be y. So our second step will be writing equations. So we have, again, we're going to go back to reading two numbers added. So that means we're going to add those two numbers. So x plus y added will equal 24. And then let's go ahead and think about what is the second equation. One number, okay, so let's say x equals, one number is 8 more than the other, okay, so x is 8 more than y. So as you know, when we say more, it's an addition. So we're saying that x equals y plus 8, and that makes x more than y. Okay, so let's move on to our third step. So to solve the system of equations, we can use substitution because we know what is x. X equals y plus 8. And let's go ahead and write what are we looking for. We're looking for what is x and what is y. Okay, so let's get started. We can substitute here x because we know what is x. X equals y plus 8, and then we can substitute it in our first equation. Okay, so if you want to learn how to use substitution method, go ahead and watch my other videos. I'm going to link it in a description below. And if this is helpful, please consider subscribing to my channel. Okay, so let's get started. Instead of writing x, I'm going to write y plus 8 plus y. I'm going to rewrite everything else the same way, equals 24. Okay, and now let's go ahead and solve it by combine y plus y, and that will equal 2y plus 8 equals 24. And here we're going to solve by subtraction. Okay, we're going to subtract 8 from both sides. Okay, so that will equal 2y equals 16. Now we have to solve for y by division. I'm going to divide both sides by 2. And so I'm going to find y equals 8 because 16 divided by 2 equals 8. All right, since we found 8, now we have to solve for x. Let's go ahead and do that. Solve for x, I'm going to use the second equation. So x equals y plus 8. And then we're going to say, well, y is 8. So I'm going to, instead of writing y, I'll say 8 plus 8. And so therefore, x equals 16. Okay, so we found both pairs. So one number is 16, which is x, and then the other is 8. And that is our solution. Okay, our second example is all about age. Amy is 4 years older than Ben. Together, their ages add to 28. Here's the key word in here, add to 28. 4 years older than. That means we're just going to add. Okay, so first things first. Again, let's bring it down to the 3 steps that we need to do. First, we're going to define our variables. For Amy, I can say A is Amy. I'm going to say B for Ben. All right, after we identified our variables, now we're going to write the equations. So our first thing is Amy is 4 years older than Ben. So we're going to say Amy equals Ben plus 4. And that makes Amy older than Ben, right? That's what it's saying. All right, the second equation is all about together their ages add to 28. So again, there's addition part of it. So basically together, that means Amy plus Ben equals 28. Now we're going to solve to find out, well, what is Amy's age and what is Ben's age? Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Again, we have to choose, do we use substitution or elimination? In this case, I can use substitutions because I have a solution for A. A is by itself. Okay, so let's substitute A. So A is B plus 4, and then so instead of writing A in here, I'm going to write B plus 4. So B plus 4 plus B equals 28. Okay, so we're going to combine B plus B, which will be 2B plus 4, rewriting everything else the same. Now we're going to subtract and 4 from both sides. So 2B equals 24. So we're going to divide by 2. B equals 12. All right, so Ben, we found out that Ben is 12. So let's go ahead and write Ben equals 12. Okay, so let's solve for A to find Amy's age. Let's use the first equation. Since we know that B equals 12, we can write 12 instead of B. So Amy is 16 years old. So let's go ahead and write that. Amy is 16. So let's go ahead and write A and B as an ordered pair. So that will be 16 and 12. This will be the same thing as saying X and Y. Okay, let's work on our third example. A movie theater sold 150 tickets. Okay. Adult tickets cost $10. Kid tickets cost $7. Total money collected is $1,320. Okay, first things first, we have to define our variables. What do we have in here? We have adult tickets. We can say A for adult tickets. And we have K for kid tickets. Okay, so now that we defined our variables, we're going to have easier time to solve this equation. So it says movie theater sold 150 tickets. So here's what's important. We have two kinds of things that we have to deal with, tickets and money. So that means our equations will have to do something with tickets. And then another equation, we're going to write all about money. All right, so let's go ahead and write the first one. It says that a movie theater sold 150 tickets. It could be adult and kid tickets put together. So all together, adult plus kids tickets equals 150 in total. Now that we dealt with tickets, now we can deal with money. It says that adult tickets cost $10. Okay, so $10, 10A. If we don't know how many tickets, we're going to say 10 times A. Don't know how many. And then the kid ticket costs $7, so 7K. And then we're going to say that in total, they collected $1,320. As you can see, money with money, when we were writing equation, we didn't mix it up, and tickets went with tickets. So the total for tickets was 150 and total for money was 1,320. And that's how I wrote this equation. Hopefully that makes sense. Now we have to think about, okay, how do we solve this, which will be our third step? Well, think about if we can use substitution or elimination. In this case, it will be easier to use elimination because none of the equations are solved for a variable. Okay, so when we're doing elimination, we have to think about eliminating one of the variables. When I look over here, I feel like the A will be the easiest to eliminate, but we have to manipulate our first equation. Well, how do I make it 10A? Well, I can multiply the first equation by 10, then I'll have 10A, and then we can go on from there. So I'm going to do that right now. 10 times A is 10A. And then we're going to multiply everything else. 10 times K is 10K. And then 10 times 150 is 1,500. We're going to rewrite the second equation as is. And as you can see, we can now eliminate. Now you have to think about, well, do I add or subtract? So think about it this way. If I add 10A plus that will equal 20A. So addition is a no. So therefore, let's go ahead and subtract. So 10A minus 10A will equal 0. 10K minus 7K will equal 3K. And then 1,500 minus 1,320 will equal 180. Let's go ahead and divide both by 3. And our K equals 60. Well, that means that we sold 60 kid tickets. Okay, now we know that how many kid tickets we solved. We can substitute K in any of the equations and find how many adult tickets we solved. Let's go ahead and do that. It'll be easier if I use our first equation to substitute K. A plus K equals 150. Okay, so we know that the K equals 60. So let's go ahead and substitute K. Instead of writing K, let's write 60. Okay, let's solve by subtracting 60 from both sides. And A equals 90. And that means we sold 90 adult tickets. Okay, so we found our solution. And to write it as an ordered pair, you can write 90 and 60. Obviously 90 for A and 60 for K for kids tickets, and that is our solution. Let's summarize what we learned. We learned how to translate word problems into system of equations. First, we defined the variables, then we translated, then we use substitution and elimination to solve and find our solutions. If this video helped you, please subscribe to Teaching Math. And if you want to learn specifically everything that has to do with system of equations, I will link a few videos below, or you can click the video on the right or the left side. Remember, learning math takes patience, practice, and perseverance. See you on the next one.